Hey, what's up you guys? So I'm here today with a review of the Infantry MDC. Before I jump into the review, if you're enjoying the content of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. If you like the content of this specific video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Alright, so this is a very inexpensive quartz that I got off Amazon. It was only about $22. And I think the price fluctuates a little bit, but as always, we're going to do specifications, pros, cons, and then if I think the watch is worth the money. So right off the bat, the case diameter is 41.5 millimeters. It did say it was only 40 millimeters on Amazon, so I don't know if the listing is wrong or maybe there's multiple sizes, but the one I got is 41.5 millimeters on the case diameter. It's 48 millimeters lug tip to lug tip. It's only 11 millimeters thick, not including the NATO strap, and it's 22 millimeters on the lug width here. It was supplied on this all black NATO, which is actually pretty soft. It's plenty long if you have larger wrists, but it also fits my 6 3/4 inch wrist, no problem. And you can always trim these down if you have too much excess. The hardware on the NATO is all blacked out to match the rest of the watch. And you can notice that on this whole case is all, except the case back is stainless steel, but the whole case is coated. I don't know if it's painted or if it's like a PVD coating, but it's all blacked out as well. The crystal is just mineral glass. And then you have kind of this stepped dial design where you have a chapter ring that's raised, and it has large indices for the hours with a 12 o'clock position is a triangle. And then it has each of the individual minute dashes. And then you kind of drop down a level onto the dial itself. It's all basically matte black. And then you have the 1 through 12 hour indices on the outer ring, and 13 through 24, those military designations on the inner ring. You have MDC, which I believe stands for Military Design Concepts at 12 o'clock, a date that's framed in white at 3 o'clock, and then military quartz 50 meters water resist at the 6 o'clock position. And that does say made by Infantry around the 6 o'clock at the very bottom of the dial there. You have baton hands that are loomed, and you also have this pointer second hand with the only splash of color on the watch, which is the red tip of that second hand. I like that. It's a nice little detail and kind of breaks up what is otherwise a monochromatic watch. It does say it has 50 meters of water resistance, and it is powered by what is listed as a Japanese quartz. I couldn't figure out what exactly the quartz they're using, but I will say that the nice thing about this one is it does run quite silently. Sometimes on less expensive quartz watches, I've had this problem with Timex. They're kind of loud, so then if you take it off at night and it's sitting next to your bed, and you can hear it ticking. I don't know, sometimes it's really loud in a quiet room, but this is not the case with this one. It's quite quiet that you wouldn't really notice it in a quiet room. So that is, the loom, I can give you Loom Shot. It's not the greatest loom in the world, but I don't think you can expect that great of loom for like a $22, $25 price point. The crown is just push-pull. It does hack, well technically, I don't know if it's called hacking, but it's a quartz watch, so if you pull it out to the second position, the second hand does stop, and then you can set the time, and then in that first position, you can change the date. But actually, let me make sure I'm in a safe zone, so we'll advance it past 12, yeah. Yes, so then in the first position, you can change that date. So what are the pros and cons of this guy? Well, there's a lot of pros actually. It's only $22, so it's very affordable, inexpensive. The NATO is actually pretty soft and comfortable, and I like that they matched all the hardware to the case of the watch, and the crown also is all blacked out. I think these would have looked kind of weird if they were stainless steel, especially when you have a blacked out case like this. It has a nice layout. I mean, obviously it's not super imaginative. There's going to be a lot of watches that look very similar. In fact, I think there's a Seiko that looks just like this one. But you know, kind of when you're dealing with those, it's like a military style. It's designed for high legibility, which you do get here. It is quite easy to see what time it is. The hands really pop against that matte black dial. On the cons, the second hand doesn't perfectly align. That's going to be a pretty common theme, I think, with the less expensive quartz models. But because they did put the these dashes for the minutes are on the far side of the chapter ring, you don't really notice that it's not perfectly aligned, which is kind of a smart choice, and I kind of like how that worked out that way. The movement, again, I'm not really sure what movement it is. It is a little bit wobbly when you go to set the hands. You can kind of see things wobble around, but I mean, that kind of happens on a lot of the mechanical watches I have had experience with too, and it hasn't been a problem yet. So I don't know if it's just like a loose clutch when you're setting the hands or whatever, but I've had no problem with this so far, and I've seen other watches do that, so I'm not too worried about that. Yeah, so overall, I think I can recommend this watch for the money. It's about $25 on Amazon. It's highly legible. I like the way it looks on wrist. I like the style of it. The NATO is actually found quite comfortable, so I think you're getting a pretty good package for the price you're paying. So let's go ahead and get it on wrist shot, and then we'll do a loom shot, and then we'll have out our closing remarks. So there it is on my 6 3/4 inch wrist. You can see that it's 48 millimeters lug to lug, so it's not going to overhang on my wrist. And then it does kind of look smaller, especially to me. It's going to look big right under the camera like this. But because it's all blacked out, it does wear slightly smaller than, say, like a stainless steel 41.5 millimeter case would wear. But yeah, I think it looks pretty cool. The NATO goes really well with it. You could always trim this top. I have just about enough slack, but there's a lot more if you had a larger wrist, but it's going to work fine for a 6 3/4, and it's going to work good if you go a little bit lower than that, and you can always trim the NATO. So yeah, that's how it looks on my wrist. And then we'll get us a loom shot. So it's daytime here, so unfortunately it won't be super dark when I turn off this light, but it should be dark enough to be able to tell where the watch is loomed. Yeah, so you can see the hands and even the tip of that second hand are loomed green. And then it's much less noticeable, but the indices on the chapter ring are also loomed, just the hours. So it's not the most impressively strong loom, but again, the watch is only $22, $25, so it's about what I think you would expect at this price point. But it does fade pretty quickly, so don't expect to get like Seiko loom in a watch at this price point. All right, you guys, so that's the Infantry MDC. If you like the contents of this channel, I invite you to subscribe. And if you like the content of this individual video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. All right, I'll see you guys next time.